Everybody can see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Interest in real estate. So I've been methodically going through from unit 1 through every unit. Now there's a reason for my madness. And the reason is I'm recording these. When you guys log on, doesn't it say they're recorded?
Yes.
And you have to say, okay. So, so that they do that as a privacy thing, so that anything that we say or do could be put on the web. So I've been recording, we record these and then we take them and we tweak them up a little bit. I have my staff edit it. Just take the bullshit that we're talking about in the beginning out, and then at the end sometimes take it out. And then we're putting them on our YouTube channel. Are you guys going on YouTube and listening to the videos that we've done so far?
I asked you last week what it was, and you told me, but I forgot because I tried to look it up and I couldn't find it.
Well, I
Howard
didn't.
Hannes,
All right, go ahead.
can you help us, Andrea, with that? Let me help get Andrea.
Here. Sorry, I had to pull my app up.
No worries. So
No, you just go to YouTube,
Okay.
and then it's Howard Hannah Simon.
Howard Hannah.
Simon,
Uh-huh.
and then where,
I'm going to pull
Andrea?
it up here.
So
And then it should be on the front page under pre-licensing study group. There's unit 1, 2, 3, and 4 there.
Nice.
Hannah.
Here, I'll show you. Let me turn my camera around.
Ooh,
I
I
see
like
it.
that. Here, let me stop the sharing so you can have the whole screen.
I found it.
Yeah, that's us right here. And
Okay.
these are the 4 videos.
Good.
And then
Yes,
we'll keep adding to this. Now, Joanne, you and Alyssa, did I email you the study guide?
Yes.
No.
Okay, who said yes?
Alyssa.
Okay, so,
No, I haven't got one.
okay, I will email that to you.
All right, thank you.
And was the study guide helpful, Alyssa?
Yeah, I looked over it a little bit.
Okay, what's important with the study guide is it tells you, and I don't know if I have one here in my office or not, it tells you what, yeah, I have it right here.
Like the question, how many questions for each or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
that's what you got to look at. That's what it's for. So property ownership, salesperson has 7. Okay. But if you go through, it will, some of them have like general principles of agency has 10 questions on a test. So you want to know that section. Okay.
Right.
And then it even tells you what page in the book that you can go to. Okay. But Joanne, do you have a book?
Yes.
How about you, Alyssa?
I have the books from like the schooling portion, and then I have another book. I don't know if I showed you or not, but you said you never seen it before. This
ahead.
one. I don't know. I don't even know how to put my video on. Okay. This one.
Okay. Oh, you have the real estate exam prep.
This is what Olivia told me to buy in the beginning. She said this book will help me. I don't know if it's true or not.
I got a saying that I say. Don't take advice from anybody more bleep up than you. No, that's a good thing. That's like anything you have. But the study guide, just so that you guys are on the right page, is running off of the book Real Estate Practice in Pennsylvania the 13th edition.
Don't you
I have
have
that
that book
book.
for sale?
Yeah, I have it for sale, but I don't want you to buy it if you don't have to. When you sign up for your course, do you get an online book?
The books I got
Like
are,
like a PDF, Alyssa?
yeah, this one.
Which would say Pennsylvania Real Estate Fundamentals. Okay,
And
that's
then
what
I
they-
have the practice one too.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm going to say. You don't need this is how, if you have the book, fine. If you don't have the book, what I would do is, for example, types of general principles of agency has 10 questions on a test. So it says types of agent and agencies, page 302 to 305. 302 and 305. So if you don't have the book, how can you go in and search? What kind of data do you have that you can search types of agency and agents and agencies? Hey, Andrea, can you look through Dropbox and see under study material if somebody sent me a PDF of the book, Modern Real Estate Practice in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I can look.
And look, while we're bullshitting on this, see if you can look. I think somebody did send me a book, but if not,
I'll look.
just look that stuff up. How can you look it up, Alyssa? Like, how can you look up real versus personal property? If you had a question
I
right
Google
now,
it.
what's that?
I go to Google.
Yeah, Google's our friend. Google's a good guy, ain't he?
Just get me that study guide.
Google's
Just
a
get me
good
to
guy.
pass this test.
You can go to Google, you can go to YouTube and go to prepagent.com.
They're really good.
They're very good. I
I
love
like them. I love them too.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different places you can go. Okay, let's get going here so we don't burn too much time BSing. But I think isn't that one of the benefits of having a little group? Again, sharing information. Sharing information. We do the same thing with my agents. If one of my agents get a listing, the market's so hot, before we dump it in a multi-list, we share it to our group. Say, hey, this is coming on the market. Wouldn't that be an advantage in this market?
Yes.
People love that. So let's talk about interest in real estate. Okay, ownership is not absolute. Okay. It depends on the type of interest that is held. Even complete ownership, if nobody else has an interest in that property, is limited by public and private restrictions. And you may not interfere with others. Use of enjoyment. Okay. And when we say use of enjoyment, what are we talking about?
Is that in the bundle of rights?
Yep.
Yeah.
That wasn't drink a beer and smoke a cigarette on a back porch enjoying. That means if somebody has an ownership interest, and let's say that you have an ownership interest and you're a tenant. You don't own the property, but you have one of the bundles of rights of possession, right? And if you have a lease, nobody could come to you and say, hey, you got to leave the property, because you have a lease saying that you have a right to use that. That's what we're talking about with enjoyment. If you own a property, you own a house, nobody can come and knock on your door and say, hey, you got to get out. You can't live here anymore because you own it. That's the enjoyment. So don't confuse that. And you may not interfere with the welfare of the public. Okay. So ownership is not absolute. And even now, if you own a rental property and you're leasing it out, you have the right to disposition. You can sell it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have the right of possession. You gave that one bundle, that one stick to somebody else. So it's important to know that concept. You guys are pretty sharp. Gabrielle, what unit are you on?
I'm on the second course. I'm waiting for my fiance's been working long hours, so today he's off. He's actually getting his haircut, but he has to come back and do for the proctored exam. They have to you have to have certain requirements on your computer, so he has to come back and run the test on it so I can schedule it. But I've been working in the second course still while I'm waiting for it to we're waiting for him to test the computer for me.
Okay. So you're moving to the real estate practice part.
Yes.
Okay, good. So this is all review for all you guys. Hey, Andrea,
Yes.
did I don't we have a thumb drive that I did some Zoom study groups where I took some of these sections that have a lot of questions? Didn't we put those on a thumb drive somewhere?
The questions?
No, don't we have a thumb drive for the pre-licensing?
We do.
What do we have on that?
Let me pull it up here.
Why don't you pull it up? As a matter of fact, why don't you give me pull it up, and when you get it pulled up, read off what we have in there. Because what I did was, I also took the study guide and I focused some Zoom meetings just on that particular section that has a lot of questions on the test. So that's what
Well, we
I'm
had
hoping.
contract. We actually didn't have that much on it. We had one that was contracts,
Okay.
part 1 of 2. Another
That's
one, I
it.
just have the date on it.
Okay, that's important, the contracts, guys, because if you look at the study guide, I think contracts has about, let me see. I bet you it has more than 10 questions on the test. Yeah, 11 items. So can we get that put up on our YouTube channel?
I think no, I didn't have it on there. I can.
Okay, and call it contract, general knowledge, I would name it this, general knowledge of contract law.
General
Okay.
knowledge.
Of contract law. Or
Okay.
better yet, just even contracts. Make it simple. What else do you have that you can put up on YouTube? Now, so that would be a good one. Alyssa, you and Joanne are getting ready to take the test. So the one on contracts, go listen to that YouTube video once Andrea gets it put up there, because there's 11 questions on a test pertaining to contracts. What's another one, Andrea, you have?
I have chapter 8. Chapter 18, part 2.
And what is chapter 18?
I don't know. I don't have a book.
Is there a part 1? I got the book out. Look.
Yeah, I have a beginning of chapter 18 and then a part 2.
Can you merge those into one unit? One video?
I can see.
Yeah, and then just call it Unit 18. And Unit 18 is listing agreements and buyer representation. So maybe we can start labeling those, not only the unit number, but what it refers to. So today
Yeah,
would be,
that's how I put them on YouTube. I do
okay,
unit
perfect.
4 and then what the chapter's called.
Okay, what else do we have on that thumb drive? So you can tweak that one up.
I don't know what these other 2 are because it's just the date.
Me and you will look at them after the meeting. So
Okay.
I'll try to use that YouTube as a library for you guys. How's that sound?
Great.
Okay. Like I said, we're learning as we go. And we're pivoting because of coronavirus, because we used to do all this in person. Hey, Andrea, can you go over and ask Cindy if she knows if they're still doing the crash courses at corporate too? And let me
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And if they are, maybe we could send the schedule out to everybody. Because one of my agents, Dave Wilhelm's an instructor, and he does a 1-day crash course. It's a Saturdays, 8 hours at the corporate office. So is there still a schedule for that, Andrea?
Cindy said she's not sure.
Okay, text Dave. Shoot Dave a quick text. Ask him if they're still doing a crash course. Maybe you can shoot Joe T at Alan Kells an email. Let's find out if there's a crash course schedule going on. Because
Okay.
those
Cindy
crash
said she'll
courses are
email him.
nice, guys. You're there all day, man. And Dave's a good instructor. Okay, so let's talk about government powers. So remember we said ownership is not absolute, right?
Right.
And it's limited by public and private restrictions. So government powers, individual ownership are subject to certain powers or rights held by federal, state, and local governments. The state's authority is passed on to municipalities and counties through legislation called enabling acts. Okay, this is a term test. Okay, this is a term test. You need to know what enabling acts is. So I'm going to play this little video to help you. And I may also send Joanne and Alyssa did I ever send you guys the terms that I have?
No.
No.
Okay. Hey, I'm going to send you guys the terms too. So you have a PDF that has all the terms on it. So let's watch the video.
Okay.
Let me know if you guys can see it and hear it.
Friends would walk up to me and just be like, "What the f is in your mug?" And I would
you
just
hear
tell
it?
them it's mud.
Pass your real estate exam with prepagent.com. Remember, keep it concise and keep it simple. Government power. Sounds like
Were you guys able to hear that video?
Yes.
I could hear it.
I can hear it, but I can't see it.
Same here.
Okay.
I can see it now.
exciting,
Okay.
doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's not power in that fun movie sense, but it is important for your real estate exam. So let's go over it. When people talk about government powers, they're talking about 4 things. To remember these 4 items, think of the name Pete. P is for police power, E is for eminent domain, T is for taxation, and E is for SG. Pete.
Stop right there. Write that down. That will be on the exam. It'll say which one of these are not government powers, maybe. You need to remember Pete, police power, eminent domain. Now, what's police power? Is it the men in blue?
No.
No. It is the power that municipalities have to set regulations. What's eminent domain? So remember one thing, guys, this is a term test. You got to know your terms. I have a lot of students that will do index cards. I use a 3-ring binder and just would write them out. Eminent domain is the state's right to come and take your property.
Yeah.
They came and took property off me at the office here. They have a right for taxation, right?
Hmm.
You just all know what that is. I went up to Ross River Township yesterday and paid my school tax. And if I don't pay my school tax, guess what they do? They take my property. And it's cheat. What is this? It's cheat.
When you die without any heirs.
Okay, perfect. So let's watch the rest of the video. It will reinforce what we just went over.
That's the name you got to remember. An individual would not have any of these rights. Let's start with the first one, police power. This has nothing to do with the men in blue. Police power is the state's inherent right to regulate an individual's conduct or property to protect the health, safety, welfare, and morals of the community.
Okay, there's your definition. You may see this on the exam. What is police power? It's the states, and so you need to know the language, because the test is going to be tricky. Weren't the practice exams at the end of every unit kind of tricky?
Yeah.
Okay. That's why you need to know the terms. You need to know the terms. You need to know the terms. And I will send you two guys. I'm not going to send, I'll send Joanne, Alyssa, and Gabrielle the terms today. So you need to know that police power is the state's inherent right to regulate an individual's conduct or property to protect the welfare of the public, morals, safety, and health.
That does come up a lot in the exams. You're going to want to remember that. Unlike the exercise of eminent domain, no compensation need be paid regarding police power. Common examples of police power are zoning, building codes, and rent control. I've made a section about zoning.
So the state, through police power, gives Ross Draver Township the authority to create zoning for the welfare of the public, rent control, building codes. See how that works?
Mm-hmm.
Does it sound better when I explain it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm going to ask all three of you guys to give me a good review on Google My Business.
Definitely.
Howard Hanna saying how wonderful Tom Simon's pre-licensing class is and how much it helped you. Because I think it's important. People don't know.
Zoning if you want to learn more about that subject. Next, we got eminent domain. Eminent domain refers to the power possessed by the state to appropriate property for public use. In some jurisdictions, the state delegates eminent domain power to certain public and private companies. Typically, we're talking about utilities. So they can bring eminent domain actions to run telephone, power, water, or gas lines. The owner of any appropriated land is entitled to reasonable compensation, usually defined as the fair market value of the property. Check out my section on eminent domain to learn more about how that works. Next, we got taxation. Pretty simple, a charge on real estate used to pay for the services provided by the government. Lastly, there's escheat. Escheat occurs when property reverts to the state when an individual dies without a will, without heirs, and nobody can reasonably claim it. Escheat ensures that the property always has ownership. Escheat is usually done on a revocable basis, which means that ownership of the state or property would revert to a rightful heir should somebody appear. Well, that's it for government power. If you don't remember any of this, just at least remember this. The four government powers are police power, eminent domain, taxation, and escheat. And to remember that, you got to remember the name Pete. For more great...
Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. We back on the PowerPoint, guys?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Hey, Tom,
Sure.
I tried finding that book in Dropbox.
Yes.
There's no book that I saw.
Okay.
There's just a breakdown of it's like a Word document of every chapter or every unit.
Okay. So at this point, there should be something in there that says terms and study guide. And
Okay.
the terms, if you click on it, should be a PDF that just has all the terms. Would you be kind enough to do a group email with Joanne, Alyssa, and Gabrielle and myself and send out not only the study guide, but the terms as an attachment?
Okay, I'll look for it.
Yeah, and if you need some help, I'll come help you look for it, okay?
What is the study guide on everything?
The study, it'll just say real estate study guide, and I have a copy here. I'll show you what it looks like.
Okay.
And then when you pull the terms up, let me look at that, and then we'll just send it to everybody.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about police power. Again, established, and this is a tricky one, power to establish legislation to preserve order, to protect the public health and safety. Nothing to do with police, everything to do, police power restrictions cover environmental protection laws. I just sold a piece of property on Route 51 by the Sheets. Any of you guys see my big sold sign with my picture on it there?
I just seen it yesterday.
Yeah.
When I picked it
Okay, there is police power. Ross River Township used police power to protect wetlands on that property. That property had wetlands, and Ross River Township was able to do that through environmental protection laws. Zoning and building ordinance. Ross River Township has the zoning on that as B2. That means you can't put a single family home and live out of it, but you could have a business. Use restrictions, occupancy, size, location, construction restrictions, rental regulations, all are police powers. Do you have a better grasp of police powers right now than you did before at 9:30 this morning?
Yes.
Okay, I need a better yes than that from you guys. Come on.
I'm still like, I don't want to sound dumb, but like the only one out of these that I know is the taxation. And that's just because if you don't pay your taxes, they're coming to get your house.
Okay, but look at this screen right here.
I'm looking.
Are you on a computer?
Yeah.
Take a picture of it with your phone.
Okay. I did.
Okay, now you know what police powers is. It's power to establish legislation given from the state to the local authorities through enabling acts to control environmental protection laws, zoning, use regulations.
Isn't that
You're
like-
not stupid. Hey, listen, this is hard stuff, but I'm going to tell you, you guys being on this Zoom meeting tells me that you have tenacity and you want to pass this. We'll get through it together. I promise you. Some of my best agents took the test several times before they passed, because you don't use a lot of this stuff during your day-to-day activity in real estate. You're learning this for one reason and one reason only, to get your license. Is some of it important on your day-to-day business? Absolutely. But a lot of it you don't never use or touch. Okay. So now you know police powers. Eminent domain. Does everybody know what eminent domain is? It's the right to acquire privately owned real estate. They acquired my real estate that was privately owned here at my office for public use because they widened the bridge down my lower lot coming off of 51. So they came in and they said, Tom Simon, we're taking your property through condemnation. That's the process. Couldn't stop them. Can't stop them. But they gave me a check for $6,500. I said, are you kidding me? So I'm taking them to court right now. Andrea will tell you, I got a file folder we've been working on for 3 years, about 20 inches thick. You can take them to court to settle the dispute. You can't settle the dispute. You can't stop them from taking your property, but you can dispute how much money they're giving you for it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everybody take a picture of that with your phone. That's the E and P. Okay, let's go to the next one. Other government powers, taxation, everybody knows that, and it's cheap. That's state laws provided for ownership of real estate to escheat or revert the property back to the state. So why does the state want somebody to own all the property?
If they don't own it, then nobody would at that point.
No. If they don't, the state would own it, but the state wants people to own property, so they pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
So if somebody dies and it would go to their heirs, no problem. But if somebody dies without a will and no heirs can be located, the state wants that property to revert back to the state so that they can sell it and get somebody in there to start paying taxes. Make sense?
Yep.
It's cheap. Okay. Now let's talk about, let me see what these next kind.
I think this was probably one of the hardest chapters.
It is. It
There's
is.
a lot in it.
It is. But I'm going to help you. Okay. And is everybody on their computer?
Yeah.
No,
Okay, good. Okay, who's on their phone?
I am.
Joanne?
I got the book. I have the book in front of me.
Okay. So if you got the book in front of you,
Yeah.
everything I'm going over here is chapter 5 in the book.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, I started at the page 76 and I'm going through it. So you should be ruffling through the book as I'm talking so you
Right.
can make notes.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, and if anybody wants a book, we have them for $49.50. We get them from Alan Kell's School of Real Estate. We we don't make anything on them, but you can come and get one if you down at my office here. I think we have a few here. So let's talk about fee simple estate. It's also called fee simple absolute. You're right. You need to know this. This stuff is going to be on a test and it's very complicated, but I have a couple graphs that are in the book that will help you. So a fee simple estate, okay, it's the highest quality of interest in real estate recognized by law. That means you have all the bundles of rights. The holder has absolute, complete, and total rights of ownership. Okay. Complete. So does anybody own their house on this call?
Yes.
Okay. Who said that, Joanne?
Yeah.
Okay. You probably own your home free simple. You have a free simple estate. Does anybody else have an interest in your home?
No.
Okay. So you probably have a fee simple. It's the highest quality of interest. I'm going to show you some examples that are not fee simple as we go through. Okay. An estate is limited by controls imposed by public and private restrictions only. Now, we know what the public restrictions are, right? We just went through them through police power, correct?
Yes.
It could be what? It could be zoning. It could be
Taxes.
environmental, taxes. It could be all of these here. So the town, even though you have fee simple, the township can still tell you how many people can live in your house. They can still tell you the size of the house you have to build, the size of the lot if you want to subdivide it. That's what they mean by size. Okay, they can tell you if you're building a house on a lot, the construction restrictions. They can set rental regulations. Anybody ever hear California University?
Mm-hmm.
Through police power, the state of Pennsylvania gave the borough of California the right to set rental regulations and they set rental regulations for college students. So California, through police power, set regulations that only so many people can live in a house or per room. Certain areas of town, you can have student housing. Certain areas you can't. So even though you may own a property, fee simple, right? It's limited by controls imposed by public and private restrictions. Now, an example of a private restriction, okay?
Deed restriction.
Deed restriction, there you go. Does everybody know what a deed restriction is?
Yep.
Okay. It's a restriction an owner of a property could put on a piece of property when they sell it, and all future owners have to live by that. So when I sold a piece of property down by the river, I had 4 lots. I kept 2 in the middle. I sold the 2 on the outside. I had plans of building a big house on the river. Okay. And when I sold those 2 lots, I wanted to build a house, so I didn't want anybody to put a mobile home next door to me because I felt it would take away from the value of my house. So I put a deed restriction in those other 2 lots that no mobile homes could be built. That was a private restriction put on. Then there's fee simple defeasible. Okay. And Joanne, you have the book. So we are on page 79. Okay.
Yes.
Page 79. So let me see that chart. See this chart right here? Freehold estates is really the same thing as a free simple estate. Okay. So if you own a freehold estate, you can either have fee simple estate, which is absolute, or life estate. We'll get into these ones later. So if you have a fee simple estate, like Joanne has right now, she could either have fee simple absolute, or she could have fee simple defeasible. Now, I would assume that Joanne has fee simple absolute, because correct me if I'm wrong, a fee simple defeasible, you need to know this chart, take a picture of it, would be either special limitations with the possible of a reverter or condition subsequent with the right of reentry. Confusing as hell.
Yeah.
Let me make it easy for you. Okay? Let me make it easy. Joanne owns her home fee simple absolute, I would assume. Some people own a home fee simple defeasible. And what that means is somebody put a limitation on that property with the possibility of reverter, meaning it would revert back to the original owner. Now, the difference between special limitation and condition subsequence is very simple. Write this down on a piece of paper. Special limitation, you don't have to go to court to get the property back. It automatically reverts. Condition subsequent, you may have to take them to court to get the property back. But let me give you a good example of Russ. Anybody ever hear of Allen Crossroads in Bell Vernon?
Yeah.
Okay. The Allen family owned they had most of the property of Bell Vernon at one time. They owned it. They had a fee simple estate. Okay. They gave some property right behind Lowe's. And if you went Broad Avenue into Bell Vernon, the town of Bell Vernon, you can get to the property. They gave a piece of property fee simple defeasible to Bell Vernon School District. And they said, we're going to give you this property. And as long as you use it for school activities, you can have it and use it. And they give them a deed. But the minute you don't use it for school activities or for school purposes, or to be a park you can stay, or a playground or a baseball field, then we want it back. And we would put a special limitation with the possibility of reverter. So the Bell Vernon School District had that property for 50 years. They called me up a year ago. They said, Tom, we don't need that ball field anymore. We want to sell it. Okay. We put it up for sale, we found the buyer. When we did the title search, we found out that Bell Vernon School District did not have a fee simple estate. They did not have a fee simple absolute right to that property. They were given that property through fee simple defeasible, which means the minute Bell Vernon School District decided they didn't want to use that for the school district's purposes and they wanted to sell it, it reverted back to the Allen family. Make sense?
Yes.
Do you understand it now a little bit better?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's for the reverter then.
Well, yeah, and there's two ways it could go back to the Allen family. One is special limitation. That's where you don't have to go to court. And the other would be condition subsequence, where you may have to go to court to get it back. You may have to ask the court. In this case, it was a special limitation. And we deeded that property back to that piece, back to the Allen family. Said, okay, we don't want it anymore. School district was tired of cutting the grass. They were paying people to cut the grass for a ball field that nobody was using. So they said, let's get it off our books. We're paying to cut the grass. They didn't know that that property was given fee simple defeasible from the Allen family to the school district. They thought they just owned it. When we found that out, we went to the school district and says, hey, you have to give that property back. You can't sell it. You have to give it back to the Allen family. And that's what they did. That's what they did. So a lot of times people that have real estate will deed it. They own a fee simple estate, they own the property. They will deed it through fee simple defeasible to maybe a township for a park. Maybe they'll deed it to a school district to use for school activities. And they'll say, we're going to give you this property as long as you use it for this purpose, it's yours. The minute you quit using it for that purpose, it reverts back to us. Make sense?
Yes. Can you give an example of the condition subsequent?
The only thing you have to remember about those two on the bottom is condition subsequent, you may have to go to court to get the property back.
Okay.
Special limitation, you don't. That's probably not going to be on the test, but just remember that. But you need to know what a fee simple defeasible is. That's where somebody deeds a property to somebody with a special condition on it. So, see, it's qualified limited estate subject to an occurrence or non-occurrence of a specific event. Fee simple subject to a condition subsequent specifies some action or activity that must not occur. The former owner retains the rights of redeeming if the condition is broken. So the condition was broken when the school district said they don't want the property, they want to sell it. Special limitation exists as long as the limitation is met. The former owner retains the possibility of reverter. So don't get too caught up in these two right here. Just know special limitation, you got to go to court. Condition subsequent, condition subsequent, you have to go to court. Special limitation, you don't have to go to court. Okay. And remember, defeasible means they're giving it for a specific reason to be used as. Maybe I own 10 acres that border Cedar Creek Park. The park is owned by the county. I may say to the park, I'm going to give you this property as long as And I'm gonna give it to you fee simple defeasible. So as long as you use it for a park, it's yours. 50 years from now, the county decides we're selling that Cedar Creek Park and we're gonna sell it to Ryan Homes to build homes. As soon as they do that, that portion that that person gave to them, fee simple defeasible, would have to go back to that original owner. Can't be sold for the Ryan Homes. Make sense?
Yes.
Understand how you use this stuff, and it'll help you get through the test.
Well, now I
Okay,
understand that.
yes. Questions? Go ahead.
No, I said, now I understand that. I didn't in the beginning.
Okay, good. Okay, let's go to life estate. Okay. There's a conventional life estate and there's a legal life estate. Okay. So if you own a property, let's say you have a freehold estate. Basically, a freehold estate means the same as a free simple. You have all the rights to that property. You can deed that property as through a life estate. And there's two ways of doing it. One is a conventional way, and one is legal. The conventional way would be with an ordinary with remainder of reversion. So complicated, but I'm going to explain it. Let's say my mother owns a piece of property. She gives it to my brother to use. And she deeds the property to him. And she says, as long as you're living, you have this property. It's yours. You can do what you want. You can mortgage it. You can do what you want with it. When you pass away, the property would convert back to me. That's a conventional life estate. Now, do you see why people could do that? Maybe my brother is a player and he's been married 4 times. And my mom doesn't want my brother to just give the property to my brother, him get married, and the wife take half of it. So she says, here you go, son. This property is yours. You can use it, live in it. I'll deed it to you. But the minute you quit using that property or you die, that property goes back to me, not your girlfriend. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, there's 2 types of conventional life estates, right? Ordinary, that's where the person is giving it to somebody to use. And when that person's done using it or dies, it converts back to the original owner. Port de vie means other person in French. Anybody ever take French here?
Nope.
Okay. I took 3 years of it. I don't know any words other than port de vie. And that means third person. Okay. So let's say my brother is handicapped. And my mother wants to give him that house to live in as long as he can live. But she knows that he has special needs and needs special care. So she can go to a third party. Maybe she comes to me and says, Tommy, I'm giving this property to your brother, Chad. But you know, Chad has a hard time taking care of himself. So what I would like you to do is, I would like you to keep an eye on him, make sure he's okay down there. And when he passes away, the property will revert to you. Now, in an ordinary life estate, where would the property revert back to?
Her.
With a port de vie, where would the property revert to?
You.
A third person.
Right.
Make sense?
Yes.
See how you can use that? And I have been involved in several properties that we have sold that the people had a life estate. And the people passed away and the property reverted back to the original owner. Now let's talk about a legal life estate. Okay. A legal life estate is where the law creates a life estate. And don't get real hung up on these dower, homestead, and courtesy. But basically, what dower means is that if you're married, and let's say the husband passed away, that would be the wife has a legal right to that property. So courtesy means if the wife would pass away, the husband would have a legal right to that property. So let's say that a man bought a piece of property. It's in his name only. Then he got married. Okay. The wife may have some rights to that property through dower even after he passes away. And courtesy, the husband would have rights. Now, homestead, don't get caught up on these three. You're probably not going to see them on a test. Homestead would be family protection from creditors. So let's say that me and my wife bought a piece of property, but I only put the deed and mortgage in my name. Okay. And I passed away. Where homestead would come in would be if my wife still has a right to live there, but she can take over that mortgage and make those payments. The bank can't come in and just say, just because the husband's gone, we're taking the property back. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would just know life estate, and there's two types, conventional and legal. I wouldn't get too far into the legal from there, but the conventional, I would know there's ordinary, where the property would revert back to the original person, and there's port de vie, there's that French word, which means third party, it would revert to a third party. Was that helpful?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, do we still have everybody on the call?
Yeah.
I'm here.
Okay, then I need a better
Yeah,
Was
yeah,
that
yeah.
helpful? Was that helpful?
Yes, it definitely was.
Yes.
One more time, a little louder. Was that helpful?
Yes.
Yes. Very helpful.
Great, that's what I'm after. I'm just having a little fun with you guys. So with a life estate, it's a freehold estate that is limited in duration to the life of the owner of the life estate or some other designated person. That would be port de vie. They get the entire bundle of rights, except they cannot pass ownership to their heirs. And it ends with the death of the owner of the estate. Okay? And future rights, reversionary interest reverts back to the original owner. Remainder interest, the owner may name a remainder man to whom the property will pass, and they do that through what? Port de vie.
Today.
Okay. In Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania probates, estates, and fiduciary code creates a legal life estate for the surviving spouse of the deceased owner, permitting 1/3 of the estate or what is directed in the descendant's will. If a person dies intestate, the statute directs that percentage to be distributed to the spouse and other specific heirs. In Pennsylvania, spousal signatures. Pennsylvania abolished dower and courtesy. PA does not require the non-owning spouse to sign a real estate document. Signatures may be required by the lender or the title company. That property I just sold on 51 was purchased by a man. Okay. That man got married. He could have purchased it when he was married. I don't know if he purchased it when he was married or wasn't married, but when he purchased that property, he didn't put it in him and his wife's name. He just put it in his name. So the state of Pennsylvania does not require the spouse to sign the deed. But when we sold that property, the title insurance company required that the spouse signed off on the deed stating that she didn't have any interest in that property. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the title company is the one insuring that title. And when they're insuring the title, that means they're ensuring that that's good title. Nobody could come back and say they own that property or they have a lien on that property. So the title insurance company wanted the wife to sign off because they didn't want 10 years down the road for the wife to come back and say, hey, wait a second. You sold that property, but I have an interest in it because I was married to the owner at that time. So the title insurance company may require that. Okay. Encumbrances. Let me stop here for a second. This is a big chapter.
Yes.
Okay. This is a big chapter. And what we're going to do is we're going to stop right here where we stopped with encumbrances. And then, hey, Andrea, can I ask, are you on a call? So we're going to stop right here with encumbrances because we're an hour into it. And what I think we need to do is Friday, when we do our next Zoom meeting, I'm going to start right here on slide 20. Encumbrances. And then when we upload it on YouTube, let me ask Andrea if she could I'm in the middle of that Zoom training right now. How do I? My office list. I'm not. I think what I could do is I could tie these two together when I put them up on YouTube and just make one unit unified. So does anybody have any questions prior to that we went over today?
Nope.
I think I'm okay.
Okay. That chart, make sure you know it. Dower, homestead, and courtesy. Dower's the wife, courtesy's the husband. Homestead gives the family protection from creditors. If the husband dies, they can't just take the lender can't take the house back, even though the wife wasn't on the loan. She still has the right to make changes. A conventional life estate could either go to be ordinary or port de vie. Remember, ordinary, it would convert back. Port de vie, it would go to a third party. Freehold estate, from a freehold estate, it can go to fee simple. Fee simple and freehold both have absolute ownership, except for government controls or personal private controls. And it can be fee simple absolute or it could be fee simple to feasible. And the feasible would be like the school district did, where they gave, the Allen family gave that property to the school district and then they converted it back. If I do this today and then Friday I do the, can you tie them together for you too?
Bless you.
Thank you.
No, half. I'm just gonna do half of 5 today.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, guys. So any questions on anything on this unit?
No,
Okay, perfect. Each one of you guys will have a tumbler here. Have a tumbler here for you. Stop at the office and get it. I will send the terms to all of you guys. Okay.
and the study guide.
And I'm gonna send the study guide, one email. Send it, I'm gonna send them both to you.
Okay.
Those, that terms is really the most, is, I would look at the study guide, but the terms, I would really know those terms too. Those are two very important things that you can have that can help you. Okay, and I'll get that stuff out to you before the end of the day today. Next Friday, 6 o'clock, I'm going to be doing another Zoom meeting, and I am going to be finishing up chapter 5.
So
Okay,
it's next Friday, not
Next-
this.
not this Friday, next Friday.
Okay.
And when are we
No.
gonna come in and do a class?
Right now, my schedule's so crazy. I scheduled 3 Zoom meetings last week, this week, and next Friday. And then I will look at my schedule and I would say I would love to do an in-person class and have you guys come in for a couple hours.
Can't we do like one day, like 10 hours?
A crash
Yes,
course.
that's what we do at the corporate office. And that is, now you have to remember, that's what we do at the corporate office. I will find out about the crash course. Okay, I will find out about the crash course. Can I do a crash course here? I don't think I can do a crash course myself because of my scheduling, but I'll find out about that. But I know what you're saying, what you need. We'll help you. I'll help you as best I can help you.
I appreciate it.
Hey, I love you guys, man. You're the future of Howard Hanna Simon Real Estate Services. We need some help. We're crazy busy. It's a good time to be in real estate. Everybody have a great day. Everybody have a great day. I will catch up with you later.
Bye.
too.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Owners. No, for some reason I didn't get there. There you go. Encumbrances. So encumbrances are a claim, charge, or liability attached to a property. So what I'd like you guys to do is remember that, because on the test, they'll have, what's the definition of encumbrances? And they'll have claims, charge, liability, and then something else that's an oddball. So know that those 3 things are an encumbrance. It attaches to real estate and it's binding on real estate and it affects title. Now, what do we mean by affects title? What do you guys think it means by it affects title?
Like a lien?
Yeah. So if somebody has a lien against a property, that's an encumbrance because that's a charge. And when somebody, if you'd go to sell that property, if you don't clean that lien up, it would affect the title because you wouldn't have good, free, marketable title. So typically when we have a closing and people have a mortgage on their property, we'll collect the money at that mortgage, at the closing, to pay that mortgage off. And then we'll send it in after the closing. We'll pay that mortgage off. And then that frees up the title. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, there could be other claims. There could be a claim if there's a lawsuit pending. There could be, maybe maybe their taxes aren't paid. So those could be all claims against it. So liens are financial charges against the property, and they provide security for a debt or obligation to the owner. I would know that the lien holder is the creditor. He has a right to have the debt paid out of the debtor's property. So there's an OR and an EE rule. And typically, if it ends with an OR, that's the person giving something. Creditor, okay? That would be the lien holder giving the mortgage to the property. Leaseor would be the landlord giving the lease. Now, the only oddball is mortgagee and mortgagor, because the mortgagor you would think would be the lender giving the mortgage, right? But it's not, because when you don't get a mortgage. Doesn't everybody say, "Oh, I bought a house, I got a mortgage," right?
Mhm.
So you would think that would be the mortgagor. Hi, Joanne.
Hi.
So when you get a mortgage, you're giving a mortgage to the bank. So the mortgagor is the borrower, because he's giving a mortgage to the bank, and the bank would be the mortgagee. Okay, that's the only other one. But as we go through any of those ORs or EEs, I will point out to you. So a debt can be paid from the proceeds of a court-ordered sale. So a lot of times, if somebody doesn't pay their mortgage, they foreclose on the house. And then when they foreclose, they have a sheriff's sale, and whatever proceeds they get from that sheriff's sale can go towards that debt. So a debt can be paid from the proceeds of a court-ordered sale. Deed restrictions. These are private agreements that affect use of land, and they're binding on subsequent owners. They run with the land, and they have limited use, and they are enforced by private court action. So a deed restriction would be an example. I had a piece of property I had 4 lots on the river. I sold 2 of them. I wanted to build a nice house on the other 2. So I didn't want the other 2 lots that I sold for somebody to put a mobile home on it, because I felt it would take away from the value of my house. So I put a deed restriction on those lots when I sold them, stating that they could not put a mobile home on the property. Now, every time that property is sold, that deed restriction continues to run, go to the next owner or next owner. Now, covenants, conditions, and restrictions, so the deed restriction will go right in the deed. Covenants, conditions, and restrictions, these are filed in the public records with the original subdivision. So, for example, I live in a plan called the Spring Grove Plan of Lots, and there are deed restrictions. And as of today, I needed to see those restrictions for some reason. So I was able to go online, go to Westmoreland County, go to the recorder's office, and pull those deed restrictions up on where I live. And the deed restrictions usually will state, for example, give me an example. Do you guys have an example of a deed restriction? Not a deed restriction, but a covenant?
Isn't that like you have to build, or like you can't paint your house blue or something? Or
Yeah, they could have a covenant that says you can't paint your house blue. They could have in my plan, it has a covenant that the house has to be, if it's a ranch home, 1,700 square feet. There's a covenant that states that it has to be all brick. There's a covenant that says you're not allowed to have a shed on the property. And these are put into the original subdivision. So all the houses in that subdivision have to comply with those covenants. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Easements. Give me an example of an easement.
Whenever the electric company comes in and puts power lines through.
Very good. Electric company, water company. When I bought my property, I got it surveyed. And when I got it surveyed, my neighbor's fence was on my property 3 feet. And my neighbor came over and said, what can we do? And I says, well, I'm going to put a pool in the back. If you let me drive through your yard to bring the trucks in, I will give you a easement so that you could have your fence on my property. They may exist in any portion of real estate. They can affect airspace too. So maybe you have a house that's close to the airport and they want to, above your house, the planes need to fly to go into the runway. You may want to have to give the airport an easement so that they can use the airspace. That's important to remember. It could be a right of way across land. Let's say you have 2 lots and one lot's landlocked. The lot by the road and then there's a lot behind it. They can give that second guy an easement so that they can travel across the land. And it can also access to underground rights, gas rights, something like that. So those are all example of easements on real estate. And in this drawing, you can see Lot A has an easement over Lot B to get to the lake. So Lot A would be the dominant party because they're dominant because they're using somebody else's land. The owner of Lot B has and I have a hard time with this word, apparent easement across Lot A to gain access to the property. See it right here?
Mhm.
Okay. Lot B would be the dominant for this easement because he's using somebody else's property for ingress and egress to a public road. So remember that if there's an easement involved, the guy that's using the other person's property is the dominant. That may come up on a test. A party wall. What's a party wall?
Wall that separates 2 homes, particularly in townhomes.
Yeah, townhomes, even a duplex could have a
Mhm.
party wall.
Yeah.
So a party wall is a building wall that straddles the boundary lines between 2 properties. Each property owner owns half of the wall. Each owner has an easement or a right in the other half of the wall for building support. So if you have a party wall, your side of the wall, you own. The other side of the wall, that person gives you an easement to be able to use that and keep that structure so that the roof don't fall in. And each would pay half the expenses to maintain the wall. You could have a party driveway, very common. You ever see that? One driveway comes up and then wides the 2 houses?
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times you have to have a maintenance agreement. For maintenance, if a bank's involved, they want to see a maintenance agreement for that. So creation of an easement. It's an express grant from an owner of a property over which the easement will run. You would have a deed of conveyance by the grantor. Okay, here's an OR. Grantor and grantee. Who would be the person giving something? Giving the
Grantor.
easement. Okay, and the person getting it would be,
Grantee.
right. If you're conveying a deed, giving the whole property to somebody, who would be the seller?
Grantor.
Grantor. ORs are giving, except in a mortgage.
Right.
Because in a mortgage, we always say, I went and got a mortgage. You didn't get a mortgage, you gave a mortgage to the bank. reserving an easement over sold land. Granting the new owner easement over the grantor's remaining land. So you would have a deed prepared, spelling that out, and it would be recorded in a courthouse. And sometimes it's attached to the original deed if it's done at the time of conveyance. But for my property, when I bought my property, I don't have an easement in it for my neighbor. And when my neighbor bought the property, there was no easement. So when we created that easement, we had a deed of conveyance recorded in a courthouse. Long time usage, the easement of prescription. Does anybody know what easement of prescription means?
I can't. Is
I
it
mean,
allowing?
It has to be a continuous amount of years, or averaging around 20, where they continually use it, even though they really didn't have the right to. They make it their use.
Yeah, and you know who I always use? I use Google as my friend. So you can go right to Google on these keywords, and I'm gonna put in Google easement by prescription. And why don't you guys do the same thing? And the definition comes up. One of you guys read me the definition.
I mean, I can read it out of the book.
Go ahead.
If the claimant has made use of another's land for a certain period of time as defined by state law, an easement by prescription or a prescription easement may be acquired.
Right. And if your neighbor runs their cable line across your property, then after 21 years, if you don't bitch about it, if you don't make him move it, they have established the right to do that. They have established the right. So, you know, if somebody's cutting across your property to go to their property on a regular basis, then you may want to say, hey, listen, I don't mind if you do it, but let's prepare a lease, a year-to-year lease. And every year we can renew it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Versus just letting them do that. In Pennsylvania, it's 21 years. Continuous, exclusive, notorious, without the owner's permission. What's an and I think what's an easement by condemnation?
Eminent domain.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
It's where like if the sewage company wants to come through and cross through your property to get to someone else's property, you can't tell them no. They have to make you an offer for like $1.
Right. Right. That's taking private land. And that's why it's good to look these definitions up. Because this is a terms test. Okay. And you need to know the definition that's in the book or on Google. So, for example, you know, I Googled that. It's taking private property for public use through the government's power of eminent domain. And the government can acquire property. So the government took some property for me. They used eminent domain, and they took some property down here at the office because they were putting a new bridge in. Now, they took it, but when somebody takes your property through eminent domain, you have a right to fair compensation. And if you're not happy, and the government gave me $6,500, I said that wasn't enough. So I'm taking them to court. I've been in court for like 3 years over this because I'm going after, I want just compensation, and I don't feel that. So if the government takes your property, if you're happy with the number, fine, they give you a check. If not, you have a right to take them to court for just compensation. How do you terminate an easement? Well, if the purposes no longer exist. Okay, a termination by merger. You know, these two lots here. If this guy bought this lot, now the easement's no longer in effect because you don't need it. If this guy right here has this easement, okay, because he can't get to the public road, if maybe the road stops here, maybe they come by and they build a road. Well, he can go now straight to the road, so he wouldn't need that easement. By release or abandonment. You give somebody an easement to use your road, use your property to go to his place. He quits using the road. That's a way of terminating that easement. By non-use, by destruction. If, for example, if the party wall got knocked down, or by lawsuit. To terminate may require definite legal steps in any of these reasons. An apparent easement. It's an annex to ownership of one parcel. It allows this owner to use the neighbor's land. An easement in gross is an individual easement, interest in or limited right to use another's land. The benefits an individual or a company's interest. So I got a little video on easements here. Let's see. You guys let me know if you can hear it and watch it.
Good grammar and spelling are important, but if you want to write essays that inspire,
Hear, but not see.
Pass your real estate
Hear but
exam
not
with
see.
PrepAgent.com. Remember, keep it concise and keep it simple. An easement is a right.
Okay. Let me see. Let me get rid of it. And let me try again. Just bear with me, guys. Okay, so I'm going to share it, share sound. And let's see if we can. Can you see it now? Can you
Yes.
see it?
Yes.
Ingress, yeah.
Perfect.
And keep it simple. An easement is a right held by one person to use the land of another for a specified purpose, such as access to a property. In talking about easement, you'll hear the terms ingress, which means to enter, and egress, which means to exit. An impertinent easement involves two properties owned by two different owners. The two properties involved are called the dominant and servient tenement. When you're not sure about who is who, just think about what the two words mean. Dominant, they are dominating, they are in charge. Servient, they're serving. So therefore, the servient tenement is serving the dominant tenement's purpose. In more tangible terms, the dominant tenement is walking over the servient tenement's property. Very simple. Thinking this way may be confusing sometimes, as the dominant tenement property is typically smaller than the servient tenement property. For example, your property can be landlocked, which means that it has no direct access to a public road. So to access your property from the public road, you must cross someone else's property. That property is now serving your purpose and is now the servient tenement in what is now an impertinent easement. The easement will continue after you and your neighbors sell your properties to others. An easement impertinent attaches itself to a piece of property. It's said to run with the land, which means that whenever the property is sold, the new owner has the same rights to the use of the easement as the old owner did. Under the statute of frauds law, which exists in some fashion in every state, easements must be in writing to be valid. Another type of easement is called an easement in gross. An easement in gross has no dominant tenement because although there's a property being crossed, there's no property to go to. Typically, easements in gross that you may see are utility companies. For example, the electric company wants to connect lines between two poles. They need to cross your property to do this. This would be an easement in gross. A court order creates an easement by necessity to permit someone to gain access to a property. For example, say property owner A sells to buyer B a back portion of a land that neglects to give buyer B an easement for access. If A refuses to give B the easement, B can go to the court and have a pertinent easement created. An easement by prescription is an easement that is created by the actions of one person against the interests of another person. An example may help explain this type of easement. Every night when your neighbor Joe comes home, he drives his car across a corner of your property. How annoying. But the reason doesn't matter. He simply does it. You see him, but never stop him. And he does it for a long time. Eventually you get tired of him driving across your property and you tell him to stop. But he says, no way, I got an easement by prescription. Joe takes the matter to court, and the court agrees with him. Joe now has a permanent easement by prescription across your property. Easements by prescription require a court order as they are a result of a lawsuit. The fact that Joe's actions had persisted for a long period of time came into play. That length of time varies according to which state you're in. You saw Joe cross your property. His use was open and what the lawyers call notorious, meaning it wasn't hidden. In a sense, by not telling Joe to stop sooner, you gave him silent permission to use your property. Crazy, right? So let's talk about how to end easements. Easements can be terminated in several ways, including an agreement or release. The person who possesses the easement, known as the dominant tenement, agrees to give it up or release it to the person across whose property the easement exists, the servient tenement. You can also end an easement by merging. A has an easement across B's property. B buys A's property. The easement disappears as obviously you would not need an easement across your own property. Next, there's abandonment. Simply said, you stop using it. For one reason or another, you stop going to the property. However, unlike a dog, when you abandon an easement, it will cease to exist. With that being said, on a side note, please rescue a dog. Okay, last but not least, the need no longer exists. We discussed before how you could create an easement by necessity. Well, what if that need no longer exists? Well, if you could prove that, then in that case, the easement will not exist either. For more great information to get past your real estate exam, remember, go to prepagent.com.
Prepagent.com. It's really a good place to go to get a lot of this good material. And you can even go to their YouTube channel. They have a great YouTube channel. So let me get back to our PowerPoint. Anybody have any questions by that?
No.
See, people learn in different ways. Some people can just read and absorb it. Some people need to write it. I'm the type of person who needs to write it. So I take a lot of notes, a lot of flashcards. Some people have to see it and hear it. And that's where video, and I'm like that too. So when I'm trying to study for an exam, and I've taken a lot of exams. I've taken my real estate licensing exam you're taking, my broker's exam, my mortgage exam, my insurance exam. And man, I struggle with them, but I found that if I write, make notes, use flashcards, try to go and watch videos, it really helps me. So find what works for you and use it. And your testing will help you at the end of the chapters. But now Ian's able to go back to the to your online classes and go through the chapters.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's talk about a license. A license is a privilege to enter land of another for a specific purpose. It's not a permanent right of way. It may be withdrawn. Give me an example of a license.
Hunting license.
No.
No. Okay.
Now, you may give somebody a license to hunt on your land.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yes, that'll work.
Yeah.
Good ones I have. You ever park in a parking garage?
Yeah.
You know that little sticker they get, that little slip they give you, and then you pay on the way out. Next time you go to a parking garage, read the back of that. It'll say it's a license to use that parking garage for a limited time. You ever go to a sporting event?
Yeah.
Look at the back of your Steeler tickets, Penguin tickets. It's a license to go to that facility for that specific period of time. Those are go to a concert. So next time you go to any of those events or a parking in somewhere, look at the back of that. It'll say it's a license. So an example could be park in a driveway. You can give somebody a license to park in a driveway or a parking garage. You can give somebody a license to erect a billboard on your property, or even have a garden. Now, a license could be oral. Yeah, you could park in my driveway, but it should be written. Okay. What's an encroachment? Give me an example of an encroachment.
Building up half your pool on your neighbor's land.
Right. It's an unauthorized intrusion of an improvement or other real property onto another's property. It extends from one property across the other property line. And it can't be discovered by a spot survey. You need to know what a spot survey is. Again, it's a term test. What's a spot survey?
It's more reliable and accurate than a simple physical inspection.
No. Nice try.
Isn't it like the whole like width of the lot? Like the north to west to
That would be a survey. What's a spot survey? A spot survey would be, not only does it show the boundary lines for the land, but it shows any improvements that were put on that land, like a house. So that's why an encroachment could be detected by a spot survey. If you just got a regular survey,
Okay.
they're not locating the house and putting it on the land. But a spot survey, they would. Spot survey would show the shed, would show the garage if it's sticking over. And if you have a piece of property that's encroaching on another property and it's been doing it for 21 years, it may lead to an easement by prescription. Because they say, hey, I've been openly, notoriously encroaching on your property for 21 years with this garage that I built. So now I want to get an easement for that. Let's talk a little bit about water rights. Here's a picture of the Gateway Clipper down in Pittsburgh. Waterfront property has value. State laws govern the use of water. Okay, so the state laws govern the use of water. There's riparian rights. This is land bordered or traveled by rivers, streams, or waterways. So if you own property on the river, like right here, the Gateway Clipper, they can't interfere with the water running. Okay, you can't interrupt or contaminate the flow. Non-navigable water is typically split right down the middle. So can you navigate in this river?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a boat going right there, right?
Yep.
So if this was just a little creek running through people's yards, the property line may run right through the middle of the creek. But because it's a navigable, that you can have boats on it or ships, then your property line usually ends at the high water mark. And here's a picture, non-navigable, little creek running through. So lot B and lot A, they own right to the middle of the creek. If it's a navigable river, then you own to the high water mark and the public owns the water, the state. You got that?
Yes.
Okay, good. Helpful?
Yes.
Littoral is land bordering ocean, seas, and large lakes. Remember that, land bordering typically tidal areas. LOL, large oceans and lakes. And let's see if we can get this video. Let me know if you can see it and hear it. Oop. It says the location's unsafe. I'm going to try to use it anyway. Nope. But here's an example right here. And it's a shame, that was a good video. I shot that video myself. But a large lake, Lake Erie, the ocean, you own to the means high water mark. So littoral rights wouldn't be a river, right?
No.
Littoral rights usually water's flowing. So that's how you can remember littoral. The water would be flowing. Littoral rights, there's usually a tide. It goes up and down, and you would own where the means high water mark is. Now that's the means high water mark is not the highest the water has ever went. It's the typical high water mark. As a matter of fact, Google, look up means high water mark so that we have the right definition for that. Whenever you find it, let me know. So if you have a book, you can go to the back of the book. If not, go to Google.
Is it the point that represents the maximum rise of the body of water over the land?
Yes. Such a mark is often the result of a flood, but high water marks may affect the all-time high water, reflect an all-time high. Okay. Accretion. You need to know what it means. What's it mean? Anybody know?
Increase in the land resulting from like deposits of the soil by the water.
Yeah, maybe you live on a bend on the river, and over time that bend, the soil gets deposited, and now you have more land over time going out towards the river. So how about Leuven. How do you pronounce that? Can anybody pronounce that? Leuven?
Leuven.
Yes. What is that from?
New deposits is like sand or gravel, like on the bank of a river.
Okay. So what's the difference between the two?
They're very similar.
They are. They are. I would think looking at these, Leuven, the second one, is newly created deposits of soil, land, or sand above the banks of a river or stream.
Right, river.
Accretion could be an increase by land from deposits of soil by the water's action. I don't know, maybe the river takes a little different turn. Very
Yeah.
similar. Be a
Yeah.
tough one on a test.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. And the last one, reluction, I guess that's how you pronounce it, is newly created amounts of land due to a permanent withdrawal of a river or a sea. So try to know those as best you can. Avulsion is the sudden removal of soil by action of nature, maybe an earthquake or a mudslide. Okay. And erosion is a slow loss of property by natural forces. May take many years. Flash floods may speed it up. The boundary lines may remain the same. So a little bit complicated. I would know those terms. This is Unit 5. So let's talk a little bit about the doctrine of prior appropriation. It's used in the United States where water is scarce, typically out west. You know, do you ever watch those old westerns where those cattle farmers are fighting over the creeks running? It's the right to use water except for limited domestic use. It's controlled by the state. Landowners must demonstrate they will use the water in a beneficial way. So the state can come in. I've heard of the state coming in. I've seen it on the news out west in California when there's droughts. The state comes in and says, don't water your lawns. And then they always catch some movie star or millionaire watering the lawn and they put it on the 11 o'clock news. Any questions on that Unit 5?
Can you go back to, oh wait,
Where?
keep going. No, the other way. Closer to the end. Right there.
Are you guys on a computer?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to teach you something. Hit on your computer, it says print screen, PRTSC. Push that button.
Okay.
You push it. Now, if you escape out of that, typically, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
See paint right here? At the bottom? Paint, the little paintbrush? Or you can go to the box here. You can type in paint. Okay, most computers have that if you have Microsoft. If you open that app up, all you have to do is go up here where it says paste and click on that. And that makes it, saves it. And then you can go to file, save it as a picture. And you can save it in your documents if you want. And name it free license term. And I'm going to save it in my downloads because that's where I save all my junk. And then if I go to this little file folder down here, this may be too advanced for you, and go to downloads. There's that document.
Okay, thank you.
And then you can print that off. So, you know, if you go onto YouTube and you're watching these videos and the terms come up, stop the video, hit print screen, and you can save them. You can make a little library if you need to. Okay, question and answer period. Before we get started, Alyssa,
Yes,
guess what I still have here with your name on it?
my cup.
You better come get it.
You got mine too.
Joanne,
Yeah, you got it.
hey, listen, these will disappear. So I have yours, and
Okay.
Cassandra, I have yours here. So if you come to my front desk, they're not right at my front desk to the right. My marketing person sits, and these cups are all lined up for you to help you. So let's talk a little bit about questions you may have. You guys have any questions at this point?
I don't.
No,
Yeah, chapter 5 was a long chapter. That's why
Yeah.
we were able to split it up. There's about an hour and a half of actual video, and we'll edit that video next week, and we'll have it up on the YouTube channel. Go to prepagent.com. So if I share my screen with you, and I go to, you can go to prepagent.com, or you could even go to YouTube and search Prep Agent. And here's all kind of videos that you could watch. Here's an hour and a half, 75 most common questions on a real estate exam. Real estate exam vocabulary. You need to know to pass. So let's just click on that.
Do you know what I see here? I see every single house wasting money. Why? Because there's a brand new stimulus program offered by
Bundle of rights. Bundle of rights are the legal rights of the real estate title.
Do you guys know what the bundle of rights are?
yeah.
Okay, I would definitely watch this video. Bundle of rights, it talks about personal property, fixtures, trade fixtures. What's a trade fixture?
It's in the business, like a dental chair.
Yes, yes. So a regular fixture, if you're a tenant, you put a fan up, you can't take the fan with you. But if you're a tenant and it's a commercial property, then it's a trade fixture, you can take that. Riparian rights. Now, which one's riparian rights?
River, streams.
Rivers, yeah. Accretion, maybe littoral rights. Let's go with this. Let's listen to these play, because this is just what we talked about.
Accretion. Accretion is an increase in the actual amount of land due to natural causes. For example, from the gradual action of the ocean or river's waters receding. Avulsion.
Avulsion.
Avulsion is the sudden violent tearing away of land by water. For example, if a dam breaks and water comes rushing down and strips away the land, that would be avulsion. Reliction. Reliction is the gradual recession of water, leaving land permanently uncovered. Appurtenances. Appurtenances include easements, stock and mutual water companies, covenants, and minerals that are still in the ground. They are considered real property and run with the land. Remember, when something is appurtenant, it goes with the land. Freehold estate. A freehold estate is an estate where the ownership is held for an undefined length of time. Fee simple estate. A fee simple estate is a type of freehold estate. It is also known as an estate of inheritance or fee simple absolute. A fee simple estate can be sold or inherited and is not free of encumbrances. Fee simple absolute is the most
I mean,
interest one can hold.
You can go on Prep Agent and just watch him video after video after video. And it's, I don't know, for me, it's very helpful.
Same here. Yeah.
Meets and bounds. Here's a review. It's only 4 minutes and 52 seconds. I don't know who that's from. So there's a lot of good stuff on here. So I would scroll through this, and if you're not 100% sure, here's math. Every 40 minutes on math, you should definitely watch this. Okay. Agency, very good. So I use this. A lot of my videos in my classes come from Prep Agent, and I use these videos, and you know, I highly recommend that you go on and watch them. It's very helpful, very helpful. You know, tidbits. My job is to coach you. So I'm not going to be here training you, even though I do some training, but my job is to coach you, to help you. And I think, you know, you three guys came on today. You got now a quick overview of the second half of chapter 5, but then I gave you some tidbits on how you can go and improve. So that's what it's all about. If anybody doesn't have any other questions, we're going to wrap things up today. And thank you very much for coming on. We kept it to about 50 minutes today, which is good. If I started getting larger audiences on these Zoom meetings, I would be up to even doing a class in person for a couple hours. So, but for right now, the Zoom seems to be working. Do you agree, Joanne?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And Alyssa, you're on it too? Perfect. Okay, guys. If you don't have any other questions, have a great weekend.
You too.
We will catch up with you later, and I will let you know when we are going to do the next study group. Maybe Friday. You guys are all good with doing stuff during the day, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, man. Thank you.
Bye.
Good.
Bye-bye.
Bye.